Today, we're going to be talking about the latest leaks supposedly around Google's algorithm and some of the latest findings from that. We've got Kazra here today,
Hello.
and we'll just be talking through step by step some of the latest findings, what the updates mean, what we found. And this is based on the article from Rand Fishkin. If you haven't seen it already, just going to share my screen and I'll walk you through it. And I'll leave links to the sources that we talk about today. But basically, you can see Rand Fishkin said on May the 5th, I received an email from a person claiming to have access of a massive leak of API documentation from inside Google's search division. Now, I know he mentions in the blog that he was cynical at first, that this is actually an employee, because you can't really validate that, right? Unless it's like a public facing person. What's your first impressions when you see a leak like this?
So there's obviously maybe some bad blood between the actual employee and Google. Maybe they've just recently gotten rid of him, or potentially he might have just seen everybody that's been complaining and this isn't fair. So let's leak some documents to try and help them out potentially. What do you think?
I think it's really hard to validate, like, whether that person who leaked it is actually like an employee or whether it's legit or not. But from what I've seen so far, from a lot of sources, they've said it seems legit. Like the way that it's presented, the information in there, it's been going crazy on Twitter, but it's always going crazy on Twitter, to be fair. But one really good breakdown of the whole documentation so far is from Mike King, iPullRank.com. And so he breaks down some of the findings from there, right? So you can see, for example, this is what the API looks like. It's a little bit messy and it's quite hard to decipher if you're not into code, right?
Yeah.
There's like 14,000 lines of code like this.
Run it through ChatGPT and
Run
you'll
it.
have the exact formula to rank your website.
So you can see there are 2,596 modules represented in the API documentation with 14,014 attributes that look like this. So yeah, I would say straight off the bat, take everything that we talk about today with a pinch of salt, because it's not 100% certified. It's not 100% legit. We don't know if this is a real leak or not, but it is very interesting so far. So one of the things was this UGC effort score. And obviously, we've all seen forums do really well. Like, for example, Blackout World. If you look at their traffic after the helpful content update, after the March update, the same with Reddit, Quora as well. All these user generated websites are performing better than ever. And this UGC discussion effort score is one of the tags inside the API. So if we pull this up right here, you can see it highlighted right here. And it's basically like a page quality signal. What's your take on that?
Do you know what? With a lot of the leaks, it doesn't matter if it's like the UGC stuff that you're showing now. I think that it's just confirmation bias, if I'm being 100% honest with you, because there, there had been times in like the past 4 or 5 months where you would just randomly come across a forum. And I don't know about yourself, Julian, but you would probably just search it up on Ahrefs and the forum would essentially go up. And that's what UGC is. So a lot of it is confirmation bias. It doesn't matter if it's the UGC stuff, if it's the link stuff. I think it's just confirming what we already knew, and potentially it is adding a couple layers on top of our pre-existing learnings as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think everything I've seen so far, there's nothing truly groundbreaking. If you look through the documentation, for example, another tag that's mentioned is site authority, which is like domain authority, right? So I'll pull this up and I'll show an example. But essentially, you can see the homepage page rank is considered for all pages, and site authority is another tag within the API right here. So you can see breaks down that as a signal, and site authority is one of the metrics inside there. Now, we don't really know how that authority metric is calculated, but that would basically directly link to, say, for example, like domain rating, right? It'd be a very similar calculation, or domain authority. So I think it's really good to confirm these things, but these are all like suspicions and things that we've talked about in the algorithm for years, right? For example, back in November, we had an interview where we talked about the importance of brand. And that's already mentioned inside there. So, for example, if you're a big brand, then you're more likely to have a higher site authority, builds backlinks, it builds trust, etc.
Site authority could also be metric as well, where how many people are actually searching for that website within Google. Because a lot of these APIs and stuff like that, they think that it's just what's happening on their website, but it can also be off website factors as well. So it could be like how people respond when they see your website in the actual rankings as well, or on the SERP. So you just need to bear that in mind. A few things that I've seen is that there are variations of PageRank, which I thought was quite interesting. I saw that somebody mentioned that, and there was like, I don't remember if there was 4 or 5 different variations of PageRank and how it's calculated. That is one thing that I have spoke about. And then another thing as well that people have just recently started speaking about, and I actually mentioned it in my presentation in Saigon, which is rank boost and how that affects your website. So for anybody that doesn't know what rank boost is, it basically Google tracks up to 13 months of click data on your website. So for example, if you are an affiliate website owner and your best running shoes page always links out, they will understand that the website that you're linking out to has got a better user experience, because if you're constantly linking out to all these pages, they will naturally replace your website with that e-commerce store that you're doing affiliate for and stuff like that as well. So there's all these different metrics and all these different APIs that have been released, but I think that was probably, or those two were the two that caught my eye. I think that the leak was a lot more technical, whereas the Google Search Liaison and stuff, they don't give out as much technicality to their tweets, and also to their helpful like PDF guide and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing to bear in mind. And not only that is, I could see why the Google Search Liaison probably won't be as technical, because I don't know if you've ever seen this interview, but I believe it was with one of the top guys at Google, and basically he was saying that not one single person knows the entire algorithm. So I could understand.
Like, let's say you got 14,000 different pieces of information in there. How could one person know that all?
No, dude,
It's
it's
just not
impossible.
possible, is it?
Yeah. Unless you've got like Rain Man or somebody working in the back, it's going to be very difficult to get that all feeding into one person.
One of the interesting things is as well that, just coming on to that brand situation before, obviously it's good for backlinks, it's good for off-page signals, but according to this report, Google has numerous ways to identify entities, right? So let's say you're creating YouTube videos and people start searching like Kazra-SEO or Kazra-link building or whatever it is, then you're going to be tied to that particular subject, which means that when you publish content on it, you're a relevant entity and a brand to that topic. And therefore you have more authority when you publish content.
Yeah. Again, like what you've just mentioned there, like we've already known this, because for example, I don't know if you remember this, but a few months ago, we were actually recording something, and I think you searched on Google Bard, it might have been, and it instantly picked up that you're a YouTuber and that you do SEO and stuff. So we already knew this, but this is just reaffirming everything that we knew.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the main findings from this are like, number one, you got to test everything for yourself and confirm it, right? So, for example, if someone tells you links don't work, I wouldn't take that as fact. I would test it and go, okay, does it work or does it not, based on my tests and my website, etc. And I think that's the most important thing here, is there's such a difference between what was publicly said versus what's actually in the documentation, that you have to realize you've got to critically think about everything these days.
Yeah, definitely.
Some other interesting stuff, though, was that Google uses click data to determine how to weight links in rankings, right? So let's say, for example, you've got a website that doesn't get any clicks. Then it goes into the low quality index and it's ignored. If the website has a high volume of clicks from verifiable devices in Chrome, for example, then it goes into the high quality index and passes bigger ranking signals, which makes sense, right? So for example, if you run a link building agency, typically you are going to vet based on the amount of traffic that website gets.
Yeah. That's also another reason why we recommend doing social signal blasts to like guest posts and to niche edits and stuff like that. Because sometimes, yes, that website might be getting traffic, but might not be getting traffic to that specific page as well, which is another thing to bear in mind when you are doing any form of link building. It's yes, the domain might be getting traffic and clicks and stuff, but that inner page of that blog post that you got might not. Or let's say, for example, if you're doing any form of PR link building as well, like a lot of people would look at a link on the independent and think, brilliant, I'm going to get so much juice going through to my website or trust flow or whatever. And in reality is that page is 1 in 6 million, let's say, in the independent. So just bear that in mind when you're doing any form of link building. Don't just look at domain level metrics, look at also page level metrics as well.
Yeah. I guess it's a compromise though as well at the same time, because if you look at link building, it's like you can't have the perfect link, right? So for example, if you wanted a link in your niche from a website that's actually willing to link to you, let's say you're trying to get it for free or for a cheap price as well, then this, okay, you want a backlink, but you're not going to have it from the homepage, for example, or you're not going to have it from like their top converting affiliate product. It's it's always a balance, right? Because if you tweak things so much that it's got to have X amount of traffic and X amount of page traffic, then you're left with like 0.1% of the internet.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Next up, let's talk about small sites. So there's a flag called small personal site. And basically, if it's a small personal site and there's no definition of this, then that site would actually be demoted in terms of ranking, right? So it makes it harder to rank small sites, particularly small personal sites. What do you think to that?
I think we already knew that. I think going into all the different classifiers, let's say, I think that with a small personal site, and again, I don't know what the metrics might be if they're looking at link data, if they're looking at the amount of pages, potentially when the website was purchased. I don't know. I think that the reason why they've probably done that is to the internet a safer place. Because, for example, if anybody was to go and launch a brand new website and they were given misinformation to people, it can get dangerous very quickly. Obviously, we've seen all the Google search AI answers and stuff, and right now it's not in a perfect place by any means. But I think that this kind of falls into that category where it's does a small website deserve to rank for best credit card 2024? And the answer is probably no. So I can see why they've done it. I just don't know what classifies a website as being a small business blog.
Yeah, it's not actually defined like within the API. But I'm guessing there's going to be more and more stuff that comes out of this because as people get more time to analyze and search through all the documents that there are, it's going to be quite
Mm.
interesting to see what people figure out. But just coming back to your point before as well, I would say that you got to be wary when you listen to people's interpretations of this documentation because, for example, you're going to have some link building agencies, and I have a link building agency, right? But I'm just going to be 100% neutral and tell you the no BS truth, which is that link builders are going to see this and they're going to go, right, I told you, Kazra, I was right. You need more backlinks, right? And then there's going to be semantic SEOs who scroll through the documentation. They're going to be like, look at this little bit of the 14,000 information. The semantic SEO is the way forward. And so, like, I think everyone is going to have that confirmation bias, like you were talking about, where it's like, this works. How do I sell something off the back of it?
Yeah, I think if I'm being 100% honest with you, you should probably be doing a variety of everything. It doesn't matter if it's link building, if it is doing like social signals to your links, if it's topical authority, uploading content. Because at the end of the day, like I done a video recently on this. SEO isn't hard at all. People just overthink what SEO is, what works, what doesn't work. And in reality, you just need good content and you just need good links. And obviously, I'm going to assume that your website's technically well built, not 404 or stuff like that. But let's say you've got a technically built website, just go and start uploading articles, go and start link building. That's literally it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you gave that all that information, that API data to ChatGPT, and you say, give me the 80/20 of this, it would say Create better content, build backlinks to it, and make sure you have the right keyword or topical map strategy. That would be it.
Yeah, like in reality, that is probably what I'd like to think would be it. But just going back to one thing that you mentioned, and I think that a lot of niche website owners are probably going to be a bit salty. But saying that, when are they not salty? When are they not pissed off? One thing to bear in mind is obviously we've just said small websites get demoted. But then, and on the other side of the coin, there's going to be certain types of websites that will get demoted in other SERPs as well. Because, for example, obviously we're talking about UGC websites absolutely flying, but UGC type websites can only rank for certain keywords. And it will be the same for big authoritative websites. Because, for example, a big authoritative website, what does that know about the daily activities in Manchester, for example, right? Because they just know. So that is another thing to bear in mind. Like, I know that it probably sounds like Google hates small websites. It's probably not the case. They hate every single website that is trying to manipulate their search rankings. So don't just think that they've pinpointed small websites.
Yeah, that's it. I think link building and content, like you have to optimize for everything, right? Like you have to optimize for the user, you have to optimize for the search engine as well. And if you're doing things the right way, like if you're just creating good content and promoting it, that's essentially it, right?
Yeah. So by the end of this video, write good content, build good backlinks. That's it.
And like in 20 years, it will still be the same thing.
Yeah, it might be like, say, like video, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
in 20 years' time, but
But it will still
yeah,
be content, right? It'll be like create content and promote it.
yeah.
All right. No more videos needed for the channel now. So good to go. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, that's that. I think that's it. I think we've covered it.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to get a free SEO strategy session, feel free to book that in. Links inside the comments and description. Just need more content, more backlinks. You good to go?
Perfect.
Cheers.